The Roland Garros crowd will never forget the GOAT's recent arrival in Paris, not for a Champions League final, but for a tennis match. In the largest stadiums in the world, Cristiano Ronaldo has scored goals. He has broken records that will last for generations, hushed 80,000 spectators at Camp Nou, and lifted trophies in Champions League finals. However, the Portuguese superstar wasn't at a football game when he entered the Roland Garros stadium. He was there to observe 20-year-old Filipina Alex Eala, who has made every competition feel like a return home. As Leban Alex's screams resounded and Philippine flags waved, CR7 did something that left 15,000 fans dumbfounded. Charles de Gaulle Airport, Paris, France, May 23, 2026. Within hours, the world would know that a private jet had landed without any fanfare, press conference, or notification. I'll set the scenario for you. The Roland Garros grounds were already humming with practice sessions, qualifiers, and the hushed expectation of the second Grand Slam of the season. The French Open was only a few hours away, and the main tournament would start on May 24th. The 40,000 Filipino supporters who had stormed the booking system weeks earlier were already arriving at Charles de Gaulle with their suitcases full of flags and hope, while the Philippine flags were being hoisted throughout the city and the Leban Alex chants were being practiced in hotel rooms. Alex Eala was nearing the end of her preparation. She was scheduled to compete against her friend and former doubles partner, Iva Jovic, an 18-year-old American seeded 17th in the opening round. She was ranked 38th in the world. It was a draw that could have gone either way. The world of tennis was observing. The Philippines was holding its breath. Next, a private aircraft arrived at Le Bourget Airport. Airports have eyes, so even if the security detail was unseen and the passenger list was secret, the chatter started within minutes. There had been a sighting of a man entering the VIP terminal in a fitted suit. Unmistakably tall and athletic. Paris was where Cristiano Ronaldo was. On May 21st, the Portuguese superstar faced Damic in the title match, which could make Al Nassr champions for the first time in his Middle Eastern career. It was the biggest game of his Saudi Pro League season. He was not in Riyadh, Madrid, Paris, or Roland Garros, even though the football world was still in a frenzy and the highlights were still taking place. Through the fan networks in the Philippines, the news went viral. The OFWs who had flown from all over Europe to watch Eala suddenly had another cause to be thrilled as WhatsApp groups blossomed and Twitter X lit up with conjecture. Here at the French Open, Ronaldo is watching Alex. The GOAT at our girls' game? No way. This isn't a drill at all. The whispers had come true by the time the sun rose over Paris on May 24th. As Cristiano Ronaldo entered the Roland Garros stadium, he went past security checks, tournament officials, and photographers who were rushing to get a picture. He came there to observe Alex Eala, not to attend a football game or make a sponsorship appearance. The 20-year-old from Manila was getting ready in the locker room when the Philippine flags fluttered and the chanting started. She was unaware that the best goal scorer in football history had come to watch her play. The Roland Garros stadium was crowded. Every portion was adorned with Philippine flags. 4 hours, Leban Alex's chants could be heard. The stadium went quiet when the man in the fitted suit sat down in the front row. Even the greatest goal scorer in football history would be stunned by what Cristiano Ronaldo saw on the court with Philippe Chatrier, so allow me to take you inside the moment that turned a first-round tennis match into a worldwide spectacle. The game was set for 2 p.m. The lines extended down the Boulevard Hotel around midday. The 40,000 Filipino supporters who had crossed continents had come to witness a boxer rather than a triumph. And now they had a surprise visitor. Without much hoopla, Cristiano Ronaldo took his seat. A security detail that blended into the darkness, a dark outfit, and dark sunglasses. He had asked for no camera close-ups, announcements, or introductions because he was there to observe rather than to be seen. The first set started. Alex Eala took on 17th-seeded American 18-year-old Iva Jovic. In the past, the two had played doubles together in Auckland and advanced to the semifinals. Although they were buddies, they were rivals on this particular day on Roland Garros red clay. In his chair, Ronaldo leaned forward. Isla's serve was broken early by Jovic, who took a 3-1 lead. The ferociously waving Philippine flags lowered a little. Isla remained unflinching as the chants subsided. In the sixth game, she made a comeback to tie the set at 3. Ronaldo, who had scored 925 goals in his career, won Champions League crowns with 3 different clubs, and won the European Championship for Portugal, sat still, staring at the 20-year-old Filipina as the audience screamed and the flags waved more quickly. Eala earned a break point at 4-4. 12 shots were fired during the rally. She opened the court, shifted Jovic side to side, and bided her time until she had a chance to attack. Eala intervened and ripped a forehand down the line when the American racket produced a short ball. On the baseline, the ball landed flush. Jovic could only observe. Take a break. Eala would be the set's server. Ronaldo's gaze grew wide. With his hands clasped and his countenance unreadable, the Portuguese great, who had witnessed last-minute victories in improbable comebacks and seen miracles on the field, found himself leaning forward. Serve to love, Eala held. She won the opening set, 6-4. Applause shook the stadium. Ronaldo was heard telling the guy next to him, "She's not afraid of her." No, the tournament official concurred. She is never scared. There was a war in the second set. Jovic battled back, refusing to let the audience or the GOAT in the stands overpower him. She pushed the set to 4-4 after breaking Eala's serve and holding her own. It was oppressively tense. Laban Alex's cries became louder and more frantic. Eala's serve in the ninth game followed. She was 2 points away from losing the set with a 15-30 deficit. The audience held their breath. Ronaldo remained still. Eala was the server. Down the middle line, the ball screamed. Jovic took a long time to return. 30-30. One more serve. One more winner. 40-30. Point of match. The stadium stood up. Eala threw the ball. She made a swing. The serve landed close but wide rather than an ace. Jovic made a feeble return that ended up in the center of the court. Eala intervened, slamming a forehand into the gap. Set, match, game. Eala, Alex. The stadium blew apart. The flags waved, the chants resounded. Eala dropped to her knees with her racket raised, tears streaming down her face, and Cristiano Ronaldo, the man who had scored goals in Champions League finals, silenced 80,000 fans at Camp Nou, and broken records that would last for generations, rose from his seat. He stood and cheered without hesitation or slowness. The man who had come to watch, who had sat in silence for 2 hours and had not moved a muscle during the most intense rallies, was now standing with his hands clasped together in applause as the cameras captured every frame of the crowd turning toward the front row. Even though it was only a brief period, millions of people would see the picture of Cristiano Ronaldo cheering on Alex Eala. Cristiano Ronaldo, who had come to Paris to watch Alex Eala, wasn't ready to go even after the game was over and the crowd was still going crazy. He wanted to meet her. Since there was no screenplay for what transpired after the final point, allow me to take you inside the moment that has since become the most shared photograph of the 2026 French Open. The Philippine flags were flying in every area, the Stade Roland Garros was still trembling from the victory, and Laban Alex's chants continued to reverberate off the walls. With her racket raised and tears streaming down her face, Alex Eala stood in the middle of the court. Her mother Risa had already come running from the players' box to give her a hug. Then something unexpected was captured by the cameras. Cristiano Ronaldo waited, standing at the edge of the front row. With his hands still clasped and his eyes still fixated on the 20-year-old Filipina who had just defeated her first-round opponent at Roland Garros. He did not get up from his seat or slip out through a private exit. A tournament official spoke to him, and Ronaldo nodded before heading toward the court. The crowd gasped, the security detail tensed, and photographers rushed to get a picture of the Portuguese superstar, the greatest goal-scorer in football history, walking beneath the red clay of Roland Garros. Eala had just finished her on-court interview when she saw him, and her eyes widened and her hand flew to her mouth. She had previously met a number of famous people, including David Guetta, Elon Musk, Kim Kardashian, Andrea Bocelli, Valentino Rossi, and Francesco Totti. However, this was Cristiano Ronaldo, the greatest football player of all time, with 925 career goals and 5 Ballon d'Ors. She managed to say, "Ronaldo," her voice hardly audible. He held out his hand. She accepted it. He met her gaze and remarked, "You were amazing out there. I've seen a lot of athletes compete. Even though I've witnessed some of the greatest fighters on the planet, I've never witnessed a bout like the one you had tonight." Eala's eyes sparkled. The weight of carrying a country, the emotion of the tournament, and the tiredness of the game all seemed to come to the surface at that precise moment. She said, "Thank you. You don't realize how much that means." Then Ronaldo took an unexpected action. He extended his arms and embraced the 20-year-old Filipina. Every frame was recorded by the cameras. The supporters who had been discreetly gathering their possessions ceased their activities. The security officers looked at each other. The photographers at the tournament lifted their cameras. The hug continued for a few seconds. Sincere, warm, and unplanned. As they parted ways, Ronaldo remarked, "I've been following your journey. It's not just the tennis, it's also how you interact with others, how your supporters support you, and how you've made every competition seem like homecoming." His voice softened as he hesitated. "I wanted to come here to observe you, not to watch tennis, because that's unique and uncommon." The flags waved, the audience exploded, and Leban Alex's chants intensified. Still shaking, Eala gazed up at the world-conquering guy. She said, "I don't know what to say." Ronaldo said, "You don't have to say anything. All that matters is to keep fighting and believing." He turned to face the cameras, waved his hand, and left the court. Behind him, the security detail fell into stride. The embrace between the GOAT and the Filipina was already ingrained in tennis history, even though the photographers pursued him. The video has received over 50 million views on social media in a matter of hours. GOAT meets fighter and Ronaldo Eala were popular hashtags all around the world. My two worlds are clashing after Cristiano Ronaldo gave Alex Eala a hug. This is not a drill. The GOAT recognizes the future GOAT. From football to tennis, from Manila to Paris, legends know legends. Later, Ronaldo shared a picture of them cuddling on Instagram with a straightforward message, "Luban Alex, the world is watching." Within minutes, Eala responded, "Thank you for always believing, Luban." In less than a day, the post received over 15 million likes. Even though the French Open had just started, the moment that would be remembered from the 2026 competition was not the trophy ceremony, the final, or the crowning of a champion, but rather Philippe Chatrier's embrace on the court, when a football legend told a tennis star that she was worth believing in. The hug had ended. Cristiano Ronaldo wasn't done with Alex Eala, even though the cameras had recorded every moment. Long after the French Open was over, she would remember what he had to say. What the Portuguese celebrity muttered to the 20-year-old Filipina was not for the cameras, so allow me to take you inside the silent moment that followed the viral hug. It was intended for her. Ronaldo's security detail had already formed a path when he turned to go. Then he hesitated. He turned to face Eala, who remained standing in the middle of Philippe Chatrier's court with her mother at her side and her racket in her hand. He walked back toward her and added, "One more thing." The once buzzing audience fell silent once more. The photographers lifted their lenses, and the cameras zoomed in. With a hushed whisper intended exclusively for Eala, Ronaldo leaned forward. "I've scored 925 goals. Every continent has seen me lift prizes. I've smashed records that were thought to be unbreakable. However, the people who supported me when I was nobody are more important than all of that." His gaze met hers as he halted. "You possess that. Millions of people have faith in you. Not because to your ranking, your battle, the flags, the opportunity, or the love. That is power, not pressure. Make use of it." Tears welled up in Eala's eyes. "I will," she muttered. Ronaldo took a step back, gave one nod, and turned to leave. He was surrounded by the security detail. The words remained as the photographers pursued him. With her mother's arm around her shoulders and her coaches observing from the players' box, Eala stood motionless for a considerable amount of time. The flags continued to fly, and the throng continued to sing her name. The French Open was barely getting started. However, something had altered. The greatest goalscorer in football history, Cristiano Ronaldo, had traveled to Paris to see her play. For 2 hours, he had remained motionless and silent in the front row. He had stood up to celebrate her triumph. In front of 15,000 admirers, he had given her a hug and murmured a vow she would remember for the rest of her life. Later that evening, Eala was sitting in her hotel room with the French Tennis Federation medal attached to her blazer, the Louis Vuitton bracelet remaining on her wrist, and the pendant from DJ Snake hanging around her neck. Messages from all across the world buzzed through her phone. Ronaldo Eala was still a popular hashtag. More than 50 million people had watched the embrace video. She grabbed her phone and sent her mother, who was in the adjacent room, a message. "Did that truly happen, Mama?" Reza responded in a matter of seconds. Anak, it did happen. It did indeed occur. Setting her phone aside, Eala gazed out the window at Paris's lights. The billboards with her image still loomed over the Seine as the Eiffel Tower glittered in the distance. Cristiano Ronaldo was most likely boarding a private aircraft somewhere in the city to return to Saudi Arabia and his own struggles. However, he had left something behind. Conviction and confirmation. A reminder that the Manila-born 20-year-old who would never achieve a Grand Slam was more than just a tennis player. She was a force for change. To witness Alex Eala, Cristiano Ronaldo traveled to Paris. He departed with a renewed respect for a sport he hardly ever watched and for a boxer who brought back memories of his first motivation. The Portuguese superstar surpassed records that were thought to be unbreakable, lifted championships on every continent, and scored goals in Champions League finals. However, Felipe Chetrier witnessed something that went beyond sports as he sat in the front row of the court and watched a 20-year-old from Manila fight for every point. He had stated that she is different due to her fight rather than her ranking. Eala would play her second-round match in 2 days, thus the French Open was far from ended. The opportunity would be resonating, the flags would be flying, and everyone would be observing. However, Alex Eala had already achieved something that no trophy could match, regardless of what transpired next, the score, or the outcome. The greatest football player of all time has come to appreciate her. Ronaldo had written, "Laban, Alex, the world is watching." The remaining question is easier to answer than it first appears. Will Cristiano Ronaldo recall the tennis match or the moment a 20-year-old from Manila reminded him of his initial passion for sports when he reflects on his trip to Roland Garros? For more stories that go beyond the score, leave a comment below and subscribe to Court Legacy. At the French Open, Cristiano Ronaldo unexpectedly showed up to witness Alex Eala play Iva Jovic in the opening round. The 20-year-old Filipina won 6,463 to move on to the second round, and the Portuguese superstar was seated in the front row. Following the game, Ronaldo entered Felipe Chetrier's court and gave Eala a hug that has received over 50 million views on social media. "I've seen a lot of athletes compete," he told her. "Even though I've witnessed some of the greatest fighters on the planet, I've never witnessed a bout like the one you had tonight. That is unique and uncommon." Later, he shared a picture of them cuddling on Instagram, writing, "Laban, Alex, the world is watching." "Thank you for believing," Eala retorted. "Always, Laban." The event has turned into the French Open's most talked-about celebrity meeting. The football world was shocked to learn that Ronaldo had flown straight to Paris from Saudi Arabia, where his Al Nassr season was coming to an end. In the second round, Eala will take on Iva Jovic, ranked 17th.